Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maddie and today I'm going to be giving you 10 books that I wish did not exist. I don't know if you can see her, but my dog is right here, so if you see me like moving my hands weird, I'm petting my dog. I'm still not feeling the greatest, which is why I am sitting down right now. And hopefully this turns out better than my last video. If you didn't see it, I recently made the Good Vibes tag, so that'll be up in the cards if you want to check it out. Also, I recently made a video about 10 books that I wish do exist. So if you want to check that one out, it will also be in the cards above. I'm about to bring a lot of controversy to book 2 right now. Some of these unpopular opinions won't be new to you. However, I think I do have some that I've never really talked about. Who's your good baby? Who's my baby girl? Alright, let's get started. First off, I have the Noah Shaw Confessions series. The Mara Dyer trilogy is one of my favorites. I love that series so much. I love Mara, I love Noah, I love them together. But then, this series, while I do still like it because it still is the same world, it still is following the same characters, it's just from Noah's perspective instead of Mara's, and it ruins Mara Dyer for you. This series takes a different turn with Mara's character, and I don't like it. I love her character in the original trilogy, but she's just ruined for me in this series, and I wish I would have never even read it because now I just have a negative opinion about her. It's also just a subpar series compared to the Mara Dyer trilogy. Next, I have the Bane Chronicles by Cassandra Clare and a bunch of other people. This is the bind-up of the novellas following Magnus Bane from the Mortal Instruments series, the Infernal Devices series, all of Cassandra Clare's series. I actually have not read all of these novellas. I think I've read maybe 4 or 5 and I didn't like them. They were really hard to read and get through because they were so boring and I did not care at all, and it was just very disappointing for me, so I never actually finished it. I do have plans to finish it eventually, and I mean maybe I like it more now than when I first tried to read them, but they're just bad. I don't care about the stories in here. Magnus felt like a different character to me, and I think all of that has to do with the fact that Cassandra Clare is not the only person who wrote these stories, and it definitely shows. Next, I wish Tower of Dawn did not exist. And don't get me wrong, this book pleasantly surprised me. I do not like Cale. I do not like his character really at all. He ruined himself for me in the series, but I didn't ship him with the main character in the first place, so I wasn't really fond of him. Then he got his own book. I was very upset when I found out that this was going to be a full book. It was originally supposed to be a novella bridging books 5 and 6, and there were only supposed to be 6 books in the series. But then Sarah J. Maas just decided to make it a full-length novel, and then the finale in the series got pushed back another year. I was upset. I liked this story, but I also felt like it was unnecessarily long. Like, it wasn't like it was bad or boring. It wasn't necessary. It definitely could have stayed a novella and we would have been fine with that information. And again, with another Sarah J. Maas book, I have A Court of Wings and Ruin. This is the 3rd book in the ACOTAR series, and this one was not nearly as good as the 2nd book. The 1st book was just okay for me. The 2nd book is probably my favorite book of all time. It is so well done and the world is amazing. The characters are amazing. And then this one happened. And it was like the same story just drug out. Honestly, I liked the ending of the 2nd book a whole lot better than the ending in this finale. This series could have easily stayed a duology with just a few changes at the end of book 2 maybe. This book didn't need to exist, and it's like the series went up and then crashed. I don't really like the plot in this book. Of course, I still love the characters, but even then, it kind of felt off for me. It felt like Sarah really copped out with a lot of things that happened in this book. If you have not read this series, I'm about to talk about some spoilers, so just skip maybe like 30 seconds ahead and hopefully I'll be done talking about the spoilers. There weren't any high stakes because she doesn't actually make bad things happen to her characters, and it's very frustrating because they're in the middle of a huge war and then it's like, they're fine. Next, I have The Heir by Kira Cass and also The Crown by Kira Cass. I talk about how much I don't like these books a lot on my channel, but if you don't know, I don't like the continuation of the Selection series. I love the original trilogy. I read all 3 books within 24 hours. I stayed up all night and literally just could not put those books down. Then she decided to extend the series, and it's really bad. The main character is horrible. The plot isn't great because we've already had 3 books of basically the same thing happening. And then there's just 2 more books with the same things happening, just with new characters. I did not like the direction of the romance. It just wasn't very well developed. And then also the characters from the original trilogy are in this one. They're just middle-aged to older, I believe. And they're not the same. And it's very weird to read about them as they've aged because they're not the characters that we know and love. It just kind of ruined their characters for me as well. Next, I have one that a lot of people I think agree with, and that's Allegiant by Veronica Roth. And it's not because I didn't like the ending. I appreciated the ending actually, and I wasn't mad about the ending. It's just that the entirety of this book was boring and poorly written. And the first 2 books are in the main character's perspective, and then in this 3rd book you have her perspective and the love interest's perspective. And that was just a bad decision. This book would have been better if it had just stayed in Triss's point of view, but also on top of that, the plot just wasn't that great until the very end. So we had, what is it? We had about 300 pages at least of just unlikable material. Let's be honest. Really? Did anyone like this book? Everyone was on the hype train with this series. And another book from the hype train I have, Matched by Ali Condi. This book, for some reason, is still hyped up as a great YA series. Not on BookTube, but in bookstores and even like things like Pinterest. This book is still marketed like it's good and like people should read it. But anyone who's actually read this book knows that it's a 3-star book at best. It's super boring, not very memorable at all. And I read this book years ago and I still haven't continued on with the trilogy because I don't care. The only reason why I would finish this trilogy is because I own all 3 books. Because, thanks to the great hype train, I thought this series was going to be amazing, and I asked my mom for it for Christmas one year, and she got me the whole box set, all 3 books, and this book sucked. It's not absolutely terrible, but I definitely would not recommend it, and I definitely would not reread it. Next, I feel like I'm about to make some people mad, but Looking for Alaska by John Green. This is another hype train book that I jumped aboard, and when I read it I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is the best. It's John Green. Everybody loves John Green. I love this book too, even though I hated it. This book, man, the plot is ridiculously stupid and boring. I'm sorry if I'm offending you right now. I don't mean to. I'm just stating my opinion because I do not like this book with a passion. I'm sorry. This book, the characters are bad. There's nothing likable about any of them. And then the main arc ends in the middle of the book. The main big climax plot twist that happens literally halfway through the book. And then the second half of the book is just the characters trying to deal with the plot twist that happens. There's literally no plot except them talking about their emotions. Nothing happens. This book could have been... How long is this book? Okay. Well, it's not even 300 pages. It's like 200 pages. This book could have easily been 80 to 100 pages. And if it's going to be that short, and the plot sucks, and the characters suck, this book should not have existed. I'm sorry, John Green. I like you as a person. I think you're awesome. I think you're brilliant, but this book did not do it for me. Next, I have 13 Reasons Why by J. Asher, and I read this book, I believe it was my senior year of high school, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't the best thing ever, and I didn't love it, but it wasn't like it was hard to get through or anything like that. I didn't really have many issues with it at the time, even though I kind of saw those issues. What kind of made me dislike this book is when the TV show adaptation came out. Trigger warnings for suicide because I'm about to get into a suicide discussion. When the TV show came out, there were so many people contemplating suicide or completing suicide, attempting suicide, and it's all because this book romanticizes suicide. It doesn't handle suicide in a way that prevents people from killing themselves. It uses suicide as revenge, and it doesn't try to get readers to rethink their suicide plan if they are planning to attempt suicide. And maybe you believe differently than I do, but I don't think it's right for us to encourage people to kill themselves. Whether they're mentally ill or not, and whether they want to do it or not, we should not be encouraging people to kill themselves. We shouldn't be encouraging suicide. And this book should have written suicide in a way that discourages people from doing so, but it doesn't. It kind of encourages people to do so because it gets back at the people that hurt them. And I never agreed with that, but it got worse when the TV show came out. And I have not watched the show, and I will not watch the show because of those reasons, because this show did a lot of harm. And I'm sure the book did too, but the show just got more exposure and hurt a lot of people, hurt a lot of families, and I just wish this book hadn't have even been written. And the book is not that bad, but the results from it are just so sad and disheartening, and it has hurt a lot of people, and if it did not exist, there would still be a lot of people alive today, and that is just my opinion. And lastly, I have Always and Forever, Laura Jean by Jenny Han. This is the third book to the To All the Boys I've Loved Before trilogy, which was originally supposed to be a duology. And for that reason, I wish this book did not exist because it was completely unnecessary. The arc ended, the story ended with book 2, and there's no reason the author should have written this book other than the fact that when she was interviewed, she talked about how she couldn't write anything else, so she just went back to these characters, back to the story, and wrote another book that wasn't supposed to exist. This isn't a bad book. It's well written. The characters are the same. They're still great, but the plot doesn't really exist. Basically, throughout this book, the main character, Laura Jean, is just traveling around visiting different colleges and universities, and she's trying to decide where she wants to go to school, and that's pretty much it. I just didn't like it as much as the other ones because the plot was non-existent. I also didn't like the direction the romance took because I don't like Peter, who is the main love interest, and I didn't like him even more in this third book because of things that he says, things that he does, and like I already didn't like him, and it's like, why is he even still a love interest at this point? I don't understand it. I wish this book didn't exist. It's not bad. It's just, if I had to choose, I would have definitely chosen to just have the original duology. Alright, I hope I didn't offend anyone too much. Those are the 10 books that I wish did not exist. And that is the end of this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more bookish content by me. Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on these books, and if you have a different opinion than I do and you want to discuss it. And if you feel the same way I do about some of these books, also let me know, because I would like to know that I'm not alone in my thoughts. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.